Welcome back to RayTheBlackEagle episode. And today we got a very special guest, someone who's making a big impact in the coaching world. Not only the coaching world, but the HBCU world. And I'm so glad and grateful to have him on the show today. Please welcome Coach Brandon Taylor. Can't wait for the audience to hear, the listeners as well, to hear where you come from and how you got involved in HBCU and where you are at today. Before we kick in, how are you feeling today?
I'm pretty good. Good workouts. We just finished workouts here about 15, 20 minutes ago. It's been a pretty good day, good recruiting day. Got a couple of commits in, today. So, it's been a really good day. So I'm excited. I'm feeling good.
So you got some commits, right? You got some commits, you said?
We got some pretty good dogs coming in. We're the Bulldogs, so I call them dogs. I'm looking for dogs, and I found a lot of them. So super excited.
Head women's coach, and he's doing awesome. Just got some commits. So where do you come from, coach? Where did you grow up?
I'm from, I would say small town East Texas, but it used to be small. Now it's grown pretty or a lot since I was last home. Nacogdoches, Texas, Piney Woods, home of Stephen F. Austin, the Lumberjacks, Lady Jacks. Deep East Texas, first town in Texas. Small town little country boy. Trying to live the dream and follow the dream. And luckily, I've got an opportunity and I'm living it. So.
Awesome. And Nacogdoches is only 2 hours from where I'm from, guys. I'm from Silsbee, Texas. And so when he told me that, I was like, what? We country people right here.
I'm telling you.
Tell us about, like, how was it growing up in Nacogdoches?
I was one of those kids that I was all about, getting out. One, I did have a little fun, but, you also the school part and I had a single mom, and she made sure I stayed on top of everything because I'm the oldest of three boys. And so, growing up in small town East Texas, you got to get after it. As the oldest, you start work a little bit earlier than what you want to, and the fun gets cut out a little bit. So, that was one of the things about growing up in small town East Texas.
Yeah. And speaking of being the oldest, how many siblings do you have in your mind?
I have 2 brothers, including my wife. I have 10 brothers.
10 brothers, but you got 2 with your mom.
Right. Biologically, my biological siblings, I have 2 brothers. But when you include my brother-in-laws, I have 10 altogether because I have 10 of those. So,
yeah. So, plus a family. We all family. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
that's it.
So, growing up in Nacogdoches, single mom, 2, 3 kids all together. What did you guys do to escape what you guys was going through growing up in Nacogdoches, like sports wise, music wise, or what did you guys do growing up to, like, just escape as a single mom, just escape it. Basketball was my escape. So what was your escape?
So I escaped by using sports. I kept myself busy all the time with sports. Whether it was football, basketball, track, powerlifting, I kept busy just because, outside of sports, you have work and you have home.
Yeah.
And so just something to keep your mind away from all of this is done. I found that escape through sports.
Can you tell the listeners, what high school did you go to in Nacogdoches?
I went to Nacogdoches High School. Now that there's a couple of others, there's a technical high school, and I want to say something else, but I know back then there was one and only Nacogdoches High. So
yeah,
yep.
That's crazy. Did you play any sports in high school?
Football.
So straight football.
Football was a thing. Yep.
Where do you attend college?
So I actually went junior college first.
Okay.
And I actually did classes through Trinity Valley Community College.
Okay.
Which is also where I got into the coaching part of it. And so, once you do the classes, you move into different roles and you graduate and you move into graduate assistant roles and things like that. So that's kind of how it started. I actually started, majority of my career has been women's basketball, but I very rarely talk about the 3 years that I coached on the men's side. And so I started out coaching men's basketball officially on the men's side at Trinity Valley Community College.
So when you was at Trinity Valley, you was a student assistant.
Yep, I started out while I was taking classes and then moved into the coaching assistant role.
Coaching started and you was coaching the men's side at that time,
Yep.
Valley. So what made, well, not made, but transfer you to go to the women's side? When that came about?
So the women's coach at the time at Trinity Valley Community College was Michael Landers. My head men's coach at Trinity Valley was Pat Smith. Like I paid attention, and it was kind of like, you don't have to deal with egos.
Yeah.
And, all those guys back then, and, you still get a little bit here and there now, but back then it was, I'm NBA, like I'm going to the league, and I'm a smart Alex, but on the women's side, you don't really have to deal with egos like that. So, here and there, you might get one, maybe two, but not as bad as it was back then with the egos on the men's side. So that's kind of one of the things. And then, like I said, the women's coach, Michael Landers, he was a big mentor. I mean, even when I was on the men's side, I learned a lot from him because he was also our athletic director. And so paying attention and just watching the way they did things and ran the program. And so that's when I transitioned from men's to the women's side.
What advice that he gave you that stuck with you into your journey of coaching?
Be attention to detail was one. Basically, you have to get these kids to understand you as a coach. And once they understand you and they know that you care, then they'll go through a brick wall for you. So, those were a couple of the biggest things that I learned. I mean, there's a ton more, I promise you. But two of the biggest ones were those things.
I went to Glenn Junior College in 2010, that fall year. You were still there for one more year. We would have, connect then.
I know.
Because Trinity Valley was a strong team when I played against them at Fulton. But that was my game that I went off for my first. That's the game I went off against Trinity Valley. That was the biggest game for me.
Yeah.
And so
they ended up. So that year, that 2010 season, they ended up winning the national title. They were 36-0 as well, which was the second time in 5 years of being 36-0. So, that was the lesson of working for a powerhouse junior college like that, is you get to be a part of that.
Trinity was a powerhouse. Like, you hear about Trinity Valley, you knew, like, I mean, they got some dogs over there. But Glenn was behind it, though. We were behind them, we were behind them.
Hey, I know. Listen. I remember watching, I think I watched the Glenn Trinity Valley game that following year because I was at Texas Southern. And so, which is an HBCU there in Houston, Texas. So, I remember being out and recruiting and watching that game because, when you're in Texas and you're in Division I and you want some dogs, you want some players, you recruit Region 14 junior college basketball. And that's one of the top regions in the country. I mean, still is to this day.
I tell everyone that Texas JUCOs is the top region in the country. The JUCO life, the JUCO products. People now it's growing, but back then people didn't want to go JUCO because everyone thought JUCO was, but no, JUCO, it made me. You know what I'm saying? Like, speak on. I know you was a coach, but speak on the players that what they had to go through as a JUCO player.
It was strenuous. It is because, the one thing that I could tell you for sure is we made sure that they understood what it was going to be like when they left junior college and they got to the next level. So the biggest thing was preparation for that 4 year Division I. We had players go to Florida. Lanika Thompson, she went to Florida. Diane Barnes, she went to Miami. Zane, she was from Latvia, she went to Lamar. Ashley Walker, who's now the associate head coach at Texas Tech, she went to Lamar as well. So, when they left Trinity Valley, they felt like they knew what it was going to be like at that Division I.
And I'm so happy you say that, because a lot of kids out there don't overlook junior college. Junior college is coming to the spotlight now. I just recently watched JUCO March Madness. There's so many talent out there. So just advice for all you young athletes out there: don't junior college is not a bad thing. Like Coach said, they're gonna prepare you. Explain the journey at Texas Southern University, HBCU.
When it was time for me to make the decision to leave, it was tough because I love Trinity Valley. Trinity Valley is always in my heart because I got to start with a very successful career there, time there. Sometimes you have to step out and venture, and that was back when I was in my younger days, and I wasn't married, and so I could move, how I wanted to, and all of that. So, it was take that Division I job. I go back to, there's different avenues of getting into coaching, but I actually took that Division I job originally going in as the video coordinator. Our third assistant, or one of our assistants, had left, and so that gave me an opportunity to move right into an assistant coaching position automatically instead of having to wait a year or whatnot. And so it was perfect timing. I hate that coach had left, but it was perfect timing because you come in as one and you end up as a whole, in another position, which I was happy for because that's what I wanted. And I love my time working for Cynthia Cooper.
Cooper, gotta speak on that. Paul, that's Cooper. That's what my legend growing up.
Yeah, she's a beast, man. She's a beast when it comes to basketball. And like you said, she's a legend. And so everybody knows her. Everybody, like she is the one of the queens of basketball, women's basketball. And so,
at Houston
yes.
Comets. Those who don't know, WNBA was in Houston Comets too. They had a lead.
She was amazing. I learned so much from her. Yolanda Broughton, Darren Brunson. Like it was amazing time.
Let's tell everyone out there that doesn't know HBCU. Can you give the listeners that don't know what HBCU is and explain that for them? What's that?
So it is historically Black colleges and universities, and at the junior college level, we call it HBCC, historically Black community colleges. And so, for people that don't know, that there are 11 junior colleges that are considered HBCU or HBCC campuses, and so there's only 8 out of those 11, or excuse me, yeah, there's 7 out of those. No, hold on. Sorry. Get him. There's 5 that have basketball or athletics. So, and we're blessed to be one of those campuses and one of those 5 that have basketball. So,
but what stand out as HBCU coaches that make everybody want to just go?
Well, I could tell you at TSU, at Texas Southern, it was the Tiger Walk. And so that's where you had the step shows, listen, if you walk on that Tiger Walk, it's a whole different ball game.
HBCU coaches, nothing nice. I wish I experienced it, but if you haven't experienced it, young kids out there, what advice would you give, the young, I'm not going to say it's all race. What advice would you give people who want to go to HBCU?
I would say if it's something that you've always dreamed of, thought about, I would say do it. It's an experience in itself. It's an experience in itself, but it's also a different experience.
Yeah.
And you're going to have a lot of different experiences that you would probably never really think about. You have different experiences, and it's an experience. So,
you guys have to go experience HBCU. Don't miss
you
out.
got to go experience it. If you get the opportunity, go do it. That's what I'll say.
Now, well, being the difference between HBCU competition and SEC, and I see that HBCU is making a jump to get into that tournament. So what do you see as a coach that HBCU is growing? In the women's and men's programs. Can you speak on your point of view on HBCU and how it can grow and to compete with the SEC, Big 10, Big 12, type of competition?
I think there's certain instances where it goes back to the support. I think Coach Tamika Reed, when she was at Jackson State, she dominated.
He dominated.
She played some PWI schools. She played, some Baylors and some Alabamas and some, Middle Tennessees, and she beat them. And
Yeah.
so, one, it's the support, it's the culture, and it's the coaching. Like Coach Don Thornton, that's at Alabama A&M, or Verneski, that's at Texas Southern now, and Coach Carlos Pontes, that's at Southern. They've been to the NCAA tournament 3 out of the last 5 years and competed. They went this year and they won. The first round game. They competed very well in their second round game. Got knocked out, but it's all about it's right, compete. And those coaches do a really good job of preparing those kids and have coaches on staff that gets those same caliber athletes in, with some of those other schools. And so, the other thing is you look at the finances. And so the finances makes a big difference with some of the HBCUs and the PWIs and the bigger budgets, scholarship budgets, and money to I'll end that conversation there. But
Yeah. Yeah.
but they don't have to ask. They don't have to go beg. Like HBCUs, we've got to get out and we've got to earn it.
Yeah.
We've got to get it out the mud. So
this is when you met your beautiful wife at Texas Southern?
Nope, I met her when I was in Oklahoma.
Oh, so when you was in Oklahoma, you went to Oklahoma?
I coached at a junior college in Oklahoma for 8 years.
So when did you coach there? At the Texas Southern or so
yep,
after Texas Southern, you went to Oklahoma. What school and how was it?
I was at Eastern Oklahoma State College for 8 years. And so that was a different experience. As I come in, when I first got there, I was one of two Black employees on that college campus. And so as the years went by, I ended up being the only African American employee on that campus for about 3 to 4 years. So, it was an experience in itself. When we go back at the junior college level, you got to do everything. Well, I was the head coach, I was the dorm director, I was the director of housing, all at the same time. Help with student activities, junior college mental health. I had got certified in suicide prevention. I mean, I had a lot.
So that was a big Texas Southern University to Oklahoma being everything. You have to do everything by yourself. That's a big for 8 years too. You was there for 8 years.
Yep. And I'll tell you, the difference is you're going from an HBCU to all Black. You have your mixture, but majority Black. To then you transition to majority.
Yeah.
So it was a big difference. But for me, I can adjust to anything. So it didn't bother me.
I totally understand what you come from because when I left Blinn Junior College, I went to Colorado, and Colorado was mostly and like you said, we can adjust. We from country towns. Country people can adjust to city life. City people, I don't think that y'all can adjust to country life.
No,
so
not too well.
On the budget in Oklahoma, how was it recruiting wise? How did you get the players that you need to come and join your program?
So, it was all about building relationships with myself. When I talk to players, we build that rapport. They trust me just as much as I'm trusting them, when I'm recruiting them. And so, when they come in, I got to remember that they trusted me to make sure that they were taken care of. They're going to be successful on and off the court. And so it really wasn't, we had, decent facilities and stuff like that. So I had to base it off of trust.
Yeah.
And so, it goes a long ways when a kid knows that they can trust you. It makes them feel comfortable. It makes the parents feel comfortable, especially being in a place like that because, Oklahoma's known for a lot. And where we were, it's a lot that is scary, especially being, the men's and women's basketball team were the only African American people on that campus and really in that town. And so you had to endure a lot. And so as a coach recruiting these kids and talking to the parents, I got to make sure that they know that I'm going to make sure that their kids are taken care of. It was a great experience while I was in Oklahoma recruiting and things like that. So like I said, the trust part was the biggest part of my recruiting pitch. So
that's awesome. And so you overcome it for 8 years, and when then you get that call in Mississippi. How did you just
well, it's crazy. I was at two other institutions before I came to Mississippi. I
do
left Oklahoma and I was I've been around the JUCO block now.
you been
Yeah.
on a block?
So I was at when I left Eastern Oklahoma, I was at Grayson College in Texas, in North Dallas. And so I was there for 4 years, had a really good run there as well.
After you left Grace, where you went
I
to
went to Tyler Junior College.
Tyler Junior College, back to home, close to home.
Yep, East Texas. Yep, East Texas. And so I was there, had a pretty decent run that year, a great run the year before, and once we got done, with the season there, I got the phone call from Hinds. That's when I got the Hinds situation.
You've been all around the JUCO where anyone need advice, make sure you are listening, because this is amazing culture right here we have in front of us. So let's just tell us about your head coaching job, there where you are now, and you only been there for a year. This past season was your first year there. How was it your first year there?
It was really good. Coming in, as you see the background on my screen.
Yeah.
That's our gym. It's one of the top notch gyms in the state of Mississippi for sure, and throughout the country as well. We came in this year, got off the ground full speed. Started out the year 12-4. We finished 15-15. Had a lot of injuries, had a lot of sickness and things like that happen. And so, like I said, finished the year 15-15. Winning season, not a losing season. Which is
That's a win.
special. Right in a lot of people's eyes here at Hinds. They were excited about it because they haven't seen the women's team here in a very long time win games. That was something to build off of going forward in our recruiting process this year. And I've turned my mindset into we're going to be a defensive oriented team. Everybody I've signed, they run track and they're defensive minded.
Yeah.
So we
So,
might score 30 points, but we ain't giving up 31.
like that mindset. See, that's a great coach right there. And for you to say that, what quality do you look for in recruits on and off the court?
Right. So I am big on being able to outrun people. So everybody does have to run track coming out of high school or, have some kind of track mind. The next thing is like in position wise, my point guard's got to be able to score from all three levels on the floor.
Okay.
You've got to be able to get to the rack. You got to be able to hit a pull up. You've got to be able to shoot a three. And that's not just our point guard, but our forwards as well. I don't have centers. I don't have true post players, but my forwards got to be able to shoot layups, hit jumpers, and shoot threes.
The game had
And
changed.
so
The game had changed.
the game has changed.
Had changed back then. People just recruit point guards to pass, and and then they recruit bigs to do big job. Now everyone have to perform. Everyone have to score, because if you don't, as a point guard, all they're gonna do is sag back on you, and that's gonna be hard for your teammates to score. So I like the way you're thinking. I like your way.
So you got to be a threat. You got to be a threat, and so you got to be a dog. I'm a dog. You got to be a dog coming in here playing for me.
So do you mainly recruit from high school, or do you get the JUCO players that's a freshman transfer? So where is your main goal when you recruit?
I've been an all around the place recruiter. So certain places I've done certain things, like I did something different at Grayson than I did at Eastern Oklahoma, and that I did at Texas Southern, or that I did at Tyler, So like I am more of an in-state. Like we look for those under the rock hidden gems. I'm gonna do more with less talent. And so I will bring in a couple of, because we get a few out-of-state scholarships. So like you have to be very picky about those out-of-state positions. I've got one sold up, but those the other three, it's probably gonna take a while because I'm inside the transfer portal right now, digging and searching. So, JUCO portal and Division I portal. So we can get transfers, and I love transfers. So
how many spots you got? How many spots you have?
I have 4.
4 spots left, everyone. So get on his radar. How can players get on his radar?
Man, you better send me some film. Don't send me free throws. I don't want to
Man,
watch you shooting free throws. Don't send me free throws. I want to see some actual scoring and I
yes,
want to see some actual defense. I want
yes.
to see whole games. I don't want to watch clips. I don't want to watch highlights. I want to watch whole game films. Now, you can send me a highlight, but it better catch my eye in the first 30 seconds. I mean, I'm that type of person.
See, that's why I tell players too. You want to get recruited? I need a full game, all right, and I need
Yep.
the first. You can be 4 minutes, but the first 30 seconds it got to be on because coaches not
Hmm.
sit there and watch the whole 4 minutes. I'm not.
Right.
So
I'm not doing. You better catch my eye the first 30 seconds. I don't want
that's
a minute
advice.
long. I don't
That's
want a
advice.
minute and a half. I want the first 30 seconds. You better catch my eye.
And you better be a dog. So that's advice to all
Better
the,
do that.
the high school kids that's getting recruited. Come on, man, come with it. You got to just come with it.
That's it. You better bring it. We are having a tryout April the 12th from 1 to 3. So if you think you're a dog,
And
come to
if you have been recruited and you want to play college basketball, oh, here go your opportunity right here, April the 12th. I'll make sure I put that on the screen and make sure you guys hit up Coach Brandon Taylor. It's your opportunity. You got to be a dog, though. Right, Coach?
that's it. You got to be a dog. I don't want no little poodle bark now.
So,
Be a
Coach,
dog.
Coach, what type of player you look for off the court? You know, it's a lot of personalities. So, what type of players you look for off the court?
Great character. You
Yeah.
know, you know, on campus, we're our campus is a small campus, and so everybody knows everybody. And so when you're walking around this campus, when I say great character, there's some females they like to sag now, or they like to talk loud, or this. We're not gonna do that. We're going to be respectful and we're going to have great appearance because perception is everything nowadays. And
Yes.
so you are a part of this Hinds women's basketball program,
Yeah.
and you're not going to disrespect this program like that.
So well. I'm glad that you gave advice, and also what type of player you look for academic wise, because some players don't have that great academic. So what advice would you give players that not so great academic, and where can they go to develop a stronger help if they need it?
So we have a requirement that we have a 3.3, at least a 3.3 team GPA.
Okay.
And so, that requires you being in class, study hall, every day. If you got A's and B's, we make adjustments. But you have to for sure those couple of things that we stay on every day, all day. And if you're one of those that you're struggling in a class, I'd rather you miss practice. And if you got to miss games, to make sure we get those grades right, because without the grades, you can't move on to the next level. And honestly, if it's a fall semester, if you're struggling and you fail a class, you probably run the risk of being under 12 hours at a 2.0 or at the end of the fall semester. And so you become ineligible. So we like to stay on those things, and it helps setting the standard. If you require a 3.3 team GPA from the beginning, it helps because now it puts the picture in their eyes like this is what we got to do. This is the goal we want to have. We want to be the best team with the highest team GPA on this campus. And so, we use it as a challenge. So,
What advice would you give to kids that want to get recruited in JUCO? What advice would you give them come out of high school?
the right mindset, if a coach feels like, believe it or not, coaches can read players,
Yeah,
before they even say anything.
yeah.
So they can read body language, they can read faces, so you first you got to watch how you move.
Yeah.
And when we first start looking at you or you send us an email, I'm one of them ones. I'm gonna do my research because I'm gonna go to Twitter, I'm gonna go to
Mm,
Instagram, I'm gonna go to Facebook, see if I can find you. And if I see you on there flipping off, doing flipping the bird and stuff like that, it's an automatic no. So watch how you carry yourself in the public's eye, because those coaches are gonna, like me, are gonna research and try to find your social media, see, Put highlights on there. Put your basketball highlights on there. Put your accomplishments in classes on there. Your honors roll stuff on there. All that stuff. Like, that's what coaches want to see.
So anything else you want to say, Coach, out there?
Hey, I just appreciate you taking the time and having me on. Sharing this experience, sharing my experience, and feeling a little about Hinds and what we have and what it takes to be a dog here, the recruiting aspect and things like that. Hopefully we can get you out for a live and in-person, visit some point, so you can see and meet some of the athletes themselves, once they get here, probably this summer and stuff like that, and watch some workouts and be like, yeah, you got to be a dog. You got to, so.
You see how Coach Brandon Tyler coach. He coached tough discipline. Okay. This was a powerful conversation. I'm so thankful that you came on board. You gave me and the listeners great advice, and I'm definitely going to take heed to it. I know my listeners in high schools and parents out there definitely want to take heed to it. I really appreciate you for coming on. Any advice that you would give the young generation out there?
Work hard. Stay in the books. Stay doing your work. Get your work done. And make sure, like, when you're in practice, that you pay attention to detail, listen to your coaches. Don't take things the wrong way. Don't take it personal. It's nothing ever personal. It's all, we're trying to get it done and get it done the right way and be successful. Work hard. Classroom, on the court, on the field, on the track, in the weight room, whichever one it may be. Work hard.
Before we wrap it up, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at CoachB_Hinds WBB, or Instagram at Hinds Women's Basketball, Hinds_WBB on Instagram. So either any of those, the website, wcc.edu, athletics, women's basketball, things like that. So I'm easy to find. My phone number's on there. If you got questions, thoughts, please contact me, reach out, email me, whatever it may be. I'm always available.
There you go, ladies and guys. You got a coach right here, the head coach at Hinds Community College in Mississippi, HBCU. I want to thank you again, Coach Brandon Taylor. I appreciate you sharing your knowledge and experience with us today. I'm just thankful that you came on board, and I know my views and people out there would definitely appreciate this as well.
Oh, yeah.
You, and honestly, was my first coach once I started this RayTheBlackEagle recruiting. You honestly was my first coach I reached out to. Honestly,
that's an honor for me. That's an honor for me. I'm excited because listen. One thing she gonna do, she gonna make sure she gonna send you some recruit names too, and don't trying to go and steal them, but she gonna send you some.
I'm gonna see some recruits up to you. You know what I'm saying? I just give. Here you go, coach. It's out of my hand.
That's it. That is
your work.
It. Yes, indeed.
Dang,
yes, indeed.
See, basketball is a small world, and respect goes a long way. And that's one thing I can say. Like, when I left Blinn and when I left all my colleges, I left with on a good note, and that's carry on with where I'm at today. So
ain't nothing wrong with that. We all in it for the same reason, and that's
to help. That's it. That's all I want to do, to help the young generation, man.
That's it. That is it.
But I just want to thank you, Coach, for coming on board. I really appreciate it. And to everyone that's listening today, if you enjoyed, please like, please subscribe, please follow us on RayTheBlackEagle, and share it with your family, share it with the people that you know who need help recruiting, share it with everyone that you know. And again, thank you, Coach Brandon, for coming.
Thank you. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs. All right, see ya.